don't limit the source of information or your scope of reference just to the experiences that you've been through. There are so many avenues, there are so many areas in which we can get information, we can grow and build capacity for ourselves, and not just by giving what we have been through. Because sometimes young people, having not been through a lot in life, may have different sources of information because they're exposed more than others are. So when you limit your source of information just to what you've been through, you may not be as effective as you ought to, or you may not help somebody who you'd want to, because your source of information is just based on what you have been through. So you're giving them a subjective truth. You're giving them a subjective advice. It's not objective. It may not help the person who you want to help, but it will only help them if they do it the way you did it. Given that we've been through different experiences, different methods works for different people. So objectivity of an advice is given if your source of information is wide enough. We read books not just so that we can grow and build capacity, so that we can have enough exposure, but also so that we can get an understanding of different experiences of different people in different parts of the world. All of us are raised different, nurtured different. All of us have different exposures. All of us are under different cultures. So primarily the source of information is based on the culture around which we have grown. So the more books we are able to read, the more we widen our scope of information, the more we are able to grow our exposure, the more objective you're likely to become when you're giving somebody an advice or when you're giving a perspective on something. But when you limit your source of information just to what you have been through, or just to the limited people around you, then you may not be as objective as you should. You will give a subjective truth. You will give a subjective advice, and it may not help as many people as you'd want to. So if you can't read books, you read books. If you can watch movies, you watch movies. You can listen to songs. If you can travel, you travel. The purpose is not so that you can have an adventure, although that is important also, but so that you can widen your scope of exposure, so that when you're giving any reference, so that when you're giving any advice, so that when you're giving any a perspective on a subject, is not just limited to your experience. You widen your scope of experience, you widen your scope of source of information, you widen your perspective by having as wide scope of information as possible. The little the scope of information that we have, the more subjective we become with our approach on different subjects. But when we're exposed to different cultures, different societies, different experiences, then we are more likely to become objective because we give more than one perspective. Blessing.